What's going on, guys? It's Zach here. Bring you guys a fantasy football video. This will be the final start video of the season. This is week 17, the third start sit video. I'll be going over the final 6 games of week 17 and sort of making sure that we've covered every single matchup in week 17, making sure that you guys are as prepared as possible to go help and dominate your championships this week. So it's been a super wild ride this season. It's been a lot of fun with you guys. Hopefully you guys have gotten at least some help from me over the course of the season. Hopefully you guys have found this all useful, and hopefully it's paid off to the point where you guys are still listening and have some meaningful fantasy performances this week. So we got 6 games to go over today. It's going to be a fun one. 6 meaningful games as well. A lot of fantasy relevant players, and obviously we've got a lot more information with this one. I'm recording this video Friday night, so this is generally one of the more informed videos of the week as well. So hopefully you guys find this useful. As always, if you guys do have any specific start sit questions, just let me know in the comments as well. I love interacting with you guys there. I want to do everything I can to help you guys get your lineup set. And then I do want to apologize ahead of time. I will be flying home. I've been visiting family over the holidays. I'll be flying home the morning of Sunday, so I won't be available for the Sunday morning live stream. So you guys will be more than welcome to message me on Twitter. You can reply to any of the comments. I'll be doing my best to keep checking that while I'm at the airport and all that. So I should be able to get you guys as much start sit advice as possible before the games kick off, but I won't be able to go live Sunday morning. So I do want to apologize for that. I know it kind of sucks, bad timing for this week, but it's gonna be a lot of fun. I really hope you guys can pull out some wins this week. So yeah, like I said, if any questions pop up, just let me know in the comments, and let's get into the first game here. Starting things off with the Rams at the Giants. I just can't imagine sitting any of the relevant Rams players right now. Their offense is clicking like crazy. This Giants defense is not one that scares me at all. Kyron, Kupp, and Puka, they're all going to be must starts for me. Kyron's probably a top 5 player at the running back position. Cooper Kupp, Puka Nacua, both top 15 plays for me as well. I've got Cooper Kupp and Matthew Stafford in the league. I'm going to be streaming Stafford and going for that stack because I sort of got hit with the Breece Hall, David Njoku matchup on Thursday. So obviously I'm starting down a little bit, but hopefully I do think these guys can make it up for me. So I think Stafford's a really solid streaming option as well. It helps with context. I'm playing Matthew Stafford over Baker Mayfield. I've been streaming in that league all year. So hopefully that gives you guys a gauge. I'm happy to answer any questions surrounding Stafford if you have them. And I probably really the only player I wouldn't consider playing for the Rams right now is going to be Demarcus Robinson. I know he had a very good week last week. He had set some career highs in terms of receiving yardage and all that. And he clearly has carved out a role. Tutu Atwell really didn't see the field at all despite coming back from his injury. So Demarcus Robinson is clearly a part of this offense going forward, but I just don't want to chase that. A third wide receiver, this game could be a blowout. I don't know if the Rams will need to throw quite as much as they have in the past, so I just don't think I would chase that. On the Giants side of the ball, Saquon Barkley is the only Giant you need to play. He's obviously got a ton of volume, talented player. We know that floor is there. There's a scenario where this team gets down early and they do put Matt Breida on the field more than they probably should, but Saquon Barkley is still going to be a really solid play. He's a top 15 player for me this week. There's no way you're really sitting him. And then Darren Waller, I think he's actually in a pretty decent spot. I'm not super excited about playing him, but I do think he's like a fringe top 12 play here. Didn't look quite fully healthy last week, but he should be more close to 100% this week. And this is a really good matchup against the Rams defense that is exposed by tight ends quite often. And on top of that, this Giants team, they really don't have any weapons outside of him. We're going to have Tyrod Taylor back as starting quarterback for the Giants. So it should raise the floor just a little bit for this offense. I think Darren Waller's got a shot at having a good game. So if you want to use him in DFS or something, that's an option. But on top of that, if you've lost Hawkinson or something last week, I think Darren Waller's by far not a bad pivot. Next, we got the 49ers at the Commanders. For the 49ers, I think it's a big bounce back week for them. CMC, Ayuk, Debo, and Kittle, they're all must starts. Even last week where they got absolutely just blown out by the Baltimore Ravens, they still all performed at a relatively high level. None of them really sunk you last week. So I think the floor for all 4 of these guys is super safe. Honestly, I'd be firing at Brock Purdy again, despite last week. This is a really, really bad Commanders defense. Brock Purdy's in line for a big game here. I'm playing against him in the championship this week, relatively afraid of it. I still think it's going to be okay, but I think Brock Purdy's probably going to have a really great game. I would not be shocked at all if he just bounces back for 303 again. So fire up Purdy if you have him. And the 49ers defense, they might win people some weeks as well. This is a really bad Commanders offense. They are slated to be starting Jacoby Brissett this week, but he apparently injured his hamstring in practice on Thursday. There is now a potential opportunity that we see Sam Howell again on Sunday. It's just not going to be a great scenario for the Commanders, so I don't think I'm super excited about any of them. I do expect Brian Robinson to return to action as well for the Commanders. They placed rookie running back Chris Rodriguez Jr. on IR as well this week, so we're going to have 2 running backs again in this offense. It's a good 49ers defense. I don't really want to play any of the Commanders running backs unless for whatever reason Brian Robinson remains inactive. In that case, Antonio Gibson would get all the work. He'd be a really solid running back too if that is the case, but I'm currently operating under the assumption that Brian Robinson is going to be back. Antonio Gibson said so himself this week. So I don't want to sit all the Commanders running backs, but just stay tuned there. If Brian Robinson sits, Antonio Gibson becomes a really solid play. The wide receivers, Terry McLaurin and Curtis Samuel, they're both really solid flex options for me, but nothing that I'm super excited about. The Niners defense can get exposed a little bit by wide receivers. We saw Dave Flowers put up a really big game against them last week. That's a really similar role to what Curtis Samuel has in this offense. So I think I do prefer Curtis Samuel to Terry McLaurin, but we've seen Terry McLaurin perform relatively well with Jacoby Brissett under center. I think there's opportunity for both those guys to potentially put up decent games. And as far as Jacoby Brissett goes, I don't think he's really fantasy relevant, but I just want to mention that I might be starting him in a super flex league this week. I lost Russ and Mullins this week, so I'm not super happy about it. I'm choosing between Jacoby Brissett and Jarrett Stidham. Don't really love either option, but that's sort of the tier I think Brissett, and then I wouldn't get cute about it and consider really streaming him in a one quarterback league. Next, we got the Steelers at the Seahawks. The Steelers, Mason Rudolph's going to get the start for Pittsburgh. Obviously, just played really well last week, really get that offensive spark, and that's going to make George Pickens and Deontay Johnson both flex plays for me. Obviously, we're not expecting George Pickens to bounce back and have another 200-yard game, 2-touchdown game, but he's obviously a talented player. This is the Seahawks pass defense that has been beat and exposed so far this season, so I think they both have relatively good opportunities here. I think you can flex both of them this week. Obviously, if you happen to roster both of them, I don't necessarily think I'd want to be playing both, but I think you can play them both this week. Pat Fryermuth, he's a slow, low-end tight end option for me. He hasn't been super involved in the offense. I know it's a good matchup against Seattle, but I just don't want to trust it. I think I'd prefer to bench Pat Fryermuth if I can. And then Najee and Jalen Warren, sort of the same thing every single week. They're both low-end running back plays for me. I don't really have any confidence in either, but you can normally run relatively effectively on Seattle. We saw both Derrick Henry and Tajay Spears be fantasy relevant last week. Najee Harris may have a good game here. He obviously performed well last week. I do lean Najee over Warren if I have the choice here, but it's just a really tough situation. I don't have any high level of excitement for either player. Najee's obviously more likely to goose you, but he's obviously more likely to score as well. So a tough spot there. I think you can play them, but hopefully you've got better options than you probably do if you're finding yourself in the fantasy championship. For the Seahawks, Kenneth Walker and DK Metcalf, they're both going to be must starts for me. Just really good matchups. Kenneth Walker, I know he disappointed last week, but if you're going to fire him right back up, he's too involved, too talented. There's no way I'm benching Walker. And then DK, really good matchup against Pittsburgh. I'd be really excited about him. And Tyler Lockett and JSN, they'd both be low-end flex plays for me. It's just tough for both those guys to eat every single week. I know Lockett had a good game last week. JSN had a target in the end zone he could have come down with. So you can play them both, but obviously the floor is pretty low. I think that DK is the safest to play out of those three, and I'm just not super excited about either one of Lockett or JSN this week. Next, we got the Bengals at the Chiefs. For the Bengals, Jamar Chase should return to action this week. It's going to make him a solid wide receiver 2 for me. Obviously, this Chiefs defense is just really good. L'Jarius Sneed at corner has been really shutting down number one wide receivers on opposing teams all season. So, and Jamar Chase actually came out and said that this defense isn't very good for Kansas City. So we gave them a bit of locker room material, a bit of stuff to get hyped up about. So not sure that really means a whole lot, but I think Jamar Chase is still a solid wide receiver 2. We know how talented he is. You're definitely playing Chase. And then Higgins is a nice flex option as well. Obviously, just extremely talented. I think if you have him, you're probably considering playing him. I prefer him over George Pickens if that helps. I think just Higgins is a really good player. The Chiefs offense, I think, will bounce back a little bit this week. There will need to be some points scored here. So I think you can play Higgins for sure. And then Joe Mixon, he's a running back 2 for me. Really tough Chiefs defense, but Mixon's getting too much work for me to really consider benching him. That's probably it for the Bengals, though. I'm not going to get cute with Tanner Hudson or Jake Browning or Chase Brown or Tyler Boyd even. So probably it for the Bengals here. For the Chiefs, Isaiah Pacheco has been in concussion protocol all week. He logged a limited practice finally today on Friday. I still expect him to miss this game. It's just generally been what's happened over the course of the season. You have guys that get put in concussion protocol. They're unable to suit up for that immediately following week. And on top of that, this team played on Christmas on Monday, so it's a shorter week for them. I'd be shocked personally if we saw Isaiah Pacheco suit up. That's going to make CEH a really solid running back 2. Should see all the work. Obviously, we know Jerick McKinnon's on IR. I believe they have LaMichael Pirine as well in the backfield. Not someone who's going to steal a lot of touches. I think CEH could certainly put up some really fantasy relevant numbers here. If Pacheco's back, I think you're probably playing him as a low-end running back 2, but it's just a tough spot there. I wouldn't be super excited. Outside of that, for the Chiefs, Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice probably just both need to be in lineups. I know Kelsey's been disappointing lately, but there's just no way you have a better option. And Rashee Rice, he's basically the number 1 target in this offense right now, so you're definitely playing him. Then Mahomes, he's a low-end quarterback 1 for me. Obviously, he hasn't been great so far this season. Not somebody that I'm super excited about. Just hasn't looked good either, really. If you just watch him play, he doesn't look like really vintage or classic Mahomes. So you can still play him. This Bengals defense doesn't really scare me, but it's just not something that I'm super excited about. You're probably starting him, but like he and Matthew Stafford are very similar plays for me this week. Next, we got the Chargers at the Broncos, and really just what a gross game we have here. The Broncos came out earlier this week, said they're going to be starting Jarrett Stidham. They're looking to avoid the potential injury guarantee that comes in with Russell Wilson's contract. So we're going to have a backup quarterback for both teams. On top of that, Cortland Sutton dealing with concussion. He's not going to play. Both Marvin Mims and Jerry Jeudy are questionable to play for the Broncos. And then on top of that, we've got Keenan Allen and Joshua Palmer inactive for the Chargers. So both teams have no quarterbacks and no receivers. So that's super fun. Not really going to be a fun football game to watch. I think you can play both defenses relatively safely. Austin Eckler, he's going to be a solid running back too. This Denver defense isn't playing very well at all. They obviously just let Ezekiel Elliott catch 9 passes against them. I think we could see a really similar game plan here. I think Eckler, especially in PPR, is a really solid running back play. I think Gerald Everett, he's a really nice tight end streaming option as well. This Broncos defense is not good at all at defending opposing tight ends. Like I said, this Chargers team is missing both their top 2 receivers. Honestly, their top 3 if you want to include Mike Williams in that. This is a team that obviously is going to need to throw the ball to somebody. It's probably going to be Gerald Everett as the safest option here outside of Eckler. So I think you can certainly play Gerald Everett this week. And then Quentin Johnson, he might put up some numbers, but I'm just really not chasing that at all. Just not excited about that. And then for the Broncos, I think Javonte Williams is probably the only Bronco I want to play. Bad Chargers run defense. I think the Broncos will try and establish the run, obviously playing with that backup quarterback. If we see a situation where Mims and Jeudy are both active, maybe Jarrett Stidham's like a low-end streaming option, but I'm not super excited about that. Maybe they find some success just because the Chargers defense is so awful, but I don't really want to bet on that. We've seen Stidham play. He's had one really good game in his career against the Niners last week, and really other than that has been pretty bad throughout the course of his career, so I'm not chasing that at all. And finally, we've got the Packers at the Vikings. This will be the Sunday Night Football game this week. Huge playoff implications here as well. Basically, the team that loses this game will be eliminated from playoff contention, assuming Seattle beats Pittsburgh. For the Packers, Jaden Reed and Aaron Jones, they're really solid plays for me. I know Jaden Reed missed last week, but he's played through injury over the course of the season and done so really well. And honestly, this Vikings defense is one that they blitz quite a bit, so getting the ball out of Jordan Love's hands quickly should favor them, and that's something they're going to try and do with Jaden Reed. So I think Jaden Reed's a really solid play this week. Then Aaron Jones, he just looked like Aaron Jones last week, had a really good game against the Panthers. I think I'd be really comfortable playing him as a running back too. And Jordan Love, he's a great streaming option as well for me. I advised someone this week in the comments, they asked whether or not they should play Tua or Jordan Love. I felt pretty strongly that Jordan Love is the best play there. So if you have any questions about Jordan Love, I'm happy to answer those as well. Outside of that, though, for the Packers, I don't think I want to get cute with anyone. I think Tucker Kraft, he's a low-end streaming option if you want to go there. Romeo Dobbs, you can play him if you need to. Dontavian Wicks, questionable to play here. Christian Watson shouldn't suit up. Not super excited about any of the receivers for Green Bay really outside of Jaden Reed. So I think I'd stick with Jaden Reed. No one else if I can for the Packers. Then for the Vikings, Jaron Hall, he's going to get the start for Minnesota. Obviously, they're moving off of Nick Mullins after the 3-interception game last week. That's going to make Justin Jefferson a low-end wide receiver 1 for me. He's too talented for me to really knock him much lower than that, especially against a really bad Packers defense. We saw Jaron Hall have one really good drive for the Minnesota Vikings before Josh Dobbs took over. So there's upside here for Jaron Hall. We don't know a whole lot about him. We'll see how he plays, but Justin Jefferson's too good, and all the other options are banged up. So I think you're still playing him for sure. And then Jordan Addison, he's a low-end flex option for me despite being banged up. He's listed as questionable. I'm personally expecting him to suit up here. If he misses, though, there's not really anyone else that I'd pivot to. I wouldn't really consider playing KJ Osborne in his absence. And I actually really like Ty Chandler as a solid running back, too. I know Alexander Madison will be active as well, but Alexander Madison only played 2 snaps last week. Ty Chandler is very clearly the running back 1 in this backfield, and this is a really bad Packers run defense. I think Ty Chandler is in line for a pretty good game here. So that'll do it for this week's video. Start-sit video. Slide's wrong. It says up next Sunday morning live stream. There will not be a Sunday morning live stream this week. Just like I said earlier, I'll be traveling, but I really do appreciate all you guys. It's been a lot of fun this season. Hopefully we get you guys some championships. If you guys do have any specific start-sit questions, let me know in the comments. I'll be making sure that I'm checking those all the way up until I get on that flight. So I'll be doing my best to get you guys as set up as possible and as poised for success here this week. So it's been a lot of fun this season. Hopefully you guys have had a good time. I really appreciate you guys supporting the channel. It's been super fun watching it grow, and it's been a really fun, hell of a blast doing all this. So I appreciate you guys so much. This will be the last week of videos. I'll be traveling to China for work the first week of January. So won't be putting out week 18 videos. So if you guys do have questions for week 18, maybe you've got a championship there, let me know in the comments as well. I'll be happy to, or hit me up on Twitter. I'll be happy to help you guys with your lineups there. And then we'll be putting out videos probably about once per week at the course of the off season, just keeping you guys up to date. And then obviously we'll kick things back up once next summer rolls around, getting you guys ready for 2024. So it's been a lot of fun, guys. Hope you guys had a good holiday season. Good luck in your championships this week, and I'll see you guys later. Peace. Thanks so much, guys. It's been a lot of fun.